What's up guys, DuArktik with another Marvel Strike Force video, and in this video we are going to talk about the Masters of Evil. Yes, we're going to talk about the Masters of Evil, and we are going to break down all the information about them. So we're going to take a look at their T4s, the ISO weight, and see in which game modes they are going to get some use. And these characters is a team that you have to be on the lookout whether you like it or not, because they are going to be required for some upcoming legendary character. And if this team is very powerful, I expect this upcoming legendary character to be very powerful as well. So let's make sure that you guys have the right information so you can use the Masters of Evil properly. This team is a little bit complex, and if you don't use them the right way, you might not getting the full potential out of them. I'm not even sure if that matters, because they are so overpowered on their best game mode, which is Cosmic Crucible. But you guys let me know in the comments if you are excited about Masters of Evil or not. Okay, so we are going to break down all information about the T4s, ISO weight, the position of the characters. We are going to talk about the game modes, and I'm going to show you my new infographic for the Masters of Evil that will be available on my Discord. Link will be in the description. And as always, if you like the information on these videos, make sure you share it with your friends on Facebook and Discord. If you are new to my channel, make sure you subscribe for more Marvel Strike Force content, and make sure you smash that like button. So with that said, let's get started. Let's take a look at the infographic so you have an idea on how it works. So here it is. It's the first impressions infographic because we don't have the full team available yet. And all the suggestions you are going to do right now, it's based on theory crafting, which most of the times, 90% of the time is correct, 95% of the time is correct, so that's fine. Now, one thing you can see right away, one thing you can see right away is that this team does not require any kind of gold promotions, so you don't really need any of these characters beyond 5 red stars. And that's important, because that means you can save your big red stars for some upcoming character. And this is because the team is so overpowered for their main game mode that they don't need additional red stars. And on the other hand, they are so weak in other game modes that having more red stars is not going to make a difference. So keep that in mind. Then we have the T4s of the characters. We have orange T4s and purple T4s. What this means is that the orange T4s, it means that these T4s are good in all game modes. But the purple T4s means that they are good in Cosmic Crucible. If it was red, it would be good in Alliance Wars, and if it was green, it would be good in Raids. So keep this in mind. Now, the ISO weight suggestion, the blue is the main suggestion. Then the green one is a side suggestion, is a specific suggestion, depending if you are using these characters on defense, or if you have these characters at low level, or if you are not having the full team unlocked, if you are using them separate to the different characters. That's why we have two suggestions. One is like the main suggestion, when you use the full team together, when you use them on offense, when you are controlling them, and the other one is for specific situations. We are going to break down all that information. So yeah, let's move on. And let's start with Absorbing Man. So Villain, Global, Mystic, and Protector. So keep this in mind. Now, in terms of the stats of this character is, it's okay. This is meta, MSF meta 3.0. That means all the characters are going to have somewhere HP, somewhere the range of 800,000 to 1 million plus. So keep that in mind. This is the MSF meta 3.0. In terms of the damage, it's not very impressive. The armor is pretty decent, and is going to increase his armor by quite a lot, depending on how many buffs he has. The focus and the resistance are also pretty decent. The speed is just atrocious. The speed is very bad. So keep this in mind, because you are not going to be using his abilities often. So keep that in mind. Very important. Okay, so taking a look at the T4s. When we T4 the basic attack, you are going to increase the amount of vulnerabilities you get, the amount of deflects, sorry. You are going to increase the amount of deflects you get with this character from 1 to 2. But you see, there is an important factor right here, it's +2. That means you can stack up these deflects very, very easily. And if you have him, for example, with a Striker ISO 8, you can easily get 4 deflects on this character. And when he blocks, he's going to heal by 5% for each of those blocks. So you can see, it's going to be important to have as many deflects as possible so you can heal up as much as possible. So this is a decent T4 for Absorbing Man. Now let's move on to his special, and when you do the special you are going to increase the damage output on primary target and adjacent targets, but this is normal damage, and his base damage, as you guys saw, it's not the highest, it's quite low actually. But the best part about the T4 is that you're gonna copy and clear all negative effects on all Masters of Evil to himself, except the ones with trauma, of course. So that means if any of the other characters have like stun, disrupt, or bleeds or anything like that, all of those negative effects are going to be transferred to Absorbing Man, and then you can flip those negative effects into positive effects. Some of them are going to flip into counters or into evades and things like this. So this is an important ability, but it really depends of the match. It really depends of the meta. And this is why I do not recommend this T4. It's a T4 that eventually you might use. This is a T4 that on defense, it's a good T4, but on offense, when you decide which team you are facing, it's not that important because you can choose to use this team against enemies that do not apply tons and tons of negative effects. And once again, it really depends on the meta. If the main teams that we have in the game right now do not apply a lot of negative effects, then it's going to be pointless. If we have a meta like in the future where Cloak and Dagger are super good teams as they were in the past, then it's going to be important because those characters, they apply like 6 negative effects at once, so this ability will become more important. So right now the special for Absorbing Man is not that important, so you can probably skip this, especially if you are using them on offense. Let's take a look at the ultimate. Attack primary increase the damage of the primary target by 100%. Once again, normal damage, but the total multiplier is quite big, so it's not terrible. In Crucible, offense and defense apply deflect and immunity to self and all Masters of Evil. So this is going to be a very important T4, especially if you are using them on defense, because the ultimate is the first ability that Multiple Man does, and that's going to give more buffs to the entire team, and especially to Ultron. This will allow Ultron to use his ultimate multiple times because he has so many buffs that the buffs that he's going to get more energy, and that will allow to do the abilities more often. So this is a very, very important T4, especially if you are using this team on defense, but also important on offense. Okay, moving on, let's take a look at his passive. On Crucible offense, on spawn apply 4 counters to a random Titania ally. In my opinion, this T4 is not important because Titania, she's going to have a bunch of counters anyway. It's not going to be important. She already gets counters on spawn, and whenever ally Masters of Evil have a turn and she has 2 Masters of Evil going faster than her, she's going to get more counters anyway. So is this something that is really going to matter? Probably not. And you don't really need the damage output of Titania early on anyway. So this T4 is actually quite of a bait, and especially if you are using this team on defense, you are going to get low value out of this T4. So this is another T4 that you could probably skip. So in my opinion, the T4s you need to focus on is the basic and the special. Okay, so that was Absorbing Man. Let's take a look at Kang the Conqueror, one of the most disappointing characters in Marvel Strike Force. So in terms of stats, once again, meta MSF 3.0. The HP is a little bit lower than usual. The damage is quite decent, 60,000. It's not like the best, like Nakia or like Asian Venom, but it's pretty decent. Then the focus is resistance is also decent. Crit damage and crit chance pretty decent as well, and the best part about Kang the Conqueror is his speed at 130. Kang the Conqueror is one of the fastest characters in the game right now, so that's gonna be very important. He's a villain, he's cosmic, he's tech, he's blaster, so you can use him on the tech, you can use him on the cosmic section of Dark Dimension. And now let's take a look at the T4. So when you do the basic, you are increasing his damage on single target by 60%. Now the damage is piercing, so that's gonna have a lot more value, and as we saw, the base damage is pretty decent. Now you could make this guy a striker. There is a world where you could use this guy as a striker, and that would give even more value to this T4, but overall I don't think this is important T4 because it's very unlikely that you are going to use this basic, because the damage output of this team is so high that it's very unlikely that you'll have 3 turns on Kang the Conqueror. Maybe in the future this T4 will be more important, but right now this T4 is something that you can definitely skip. Okay, now we have the special ability. Attacks the primary target and adjacent targets for, once again, piercing damage. And when you do the T4, you are increasing the multiplier on the piercing damage for the primary target and adjacent targets by 70%, which is a big chunk. Once again, because this is piercing damage, is way more important. On top of that, on Cosmic Crucible offense only, clear out the barrier on primary target and adjacent targets. Right now, the meta, we don't have that many teams with barrier, so this is not like, this is pretty much a nothing burger. So when you do this T4, is mostly for the piercing damage. That's pretty much it. So beyond that, it's not a super important T4, but the burst damage early on the match is quite good. So maybe use this T4, but keep in mind that if you're using this character on defense, the T4 brings you no value. Okay, so let's move on for the ultimate on Kang the Conqueror, and on Cosmic Crucible offense only. Clear all barrier and all death proof from all enemies, and this is a turn 2 ability. So first off, you are going to use the special, then you are going to use the ultimate, and to be honest, this ability, like the T4, is 100% skippable, especially if you are using this team on defense, which you should consider maybe. I'm not saying anything, just think about it. Okay, so yeah, the damage doesn't change us, we just clear the barrier and death proofs, but once again, do we have that many teams with barrier? Not really, so what's the point? It seems that this ability will be only useful in the future, maybe if you get some kind of Fantastic Four rework or something like that, because right now we don't have that many teams with barrier, so what's the point of this? I don't get it. Okay, now we have the passive for Kang the Conqueror. On Cosmic Crucible offense, when an enemy gains speed up, fill the speed bar of this character by 10%. So this is a very good passive on Cosmic Crucible offense. Once again, you can use this team on defense, which is going to be quite strong, but yeah, we'll talk about that in other situation. But yeah, this is a very important T4 on Cosmic Crucible offense. Outside of Cosmic Crucible offense, this is another T4 that you can skip. This is another T4 that has no value in other game modes. So keep that in mind, because the price tag for this T4, if you are not using them on offense, is ridiculous. Doesn't make any sense. But that's Kang the Conqueror for you. So the T4s are very limited to Cosmic Crucible offense, which is the best place where you use Kang the Conqueror, but it's not the only place. Okay, let's talk about Moonstone, and I have said this so many times. This is a character that many people are sleeping on, and she's amazing. She's very good. Okay, so let's take a look at her stats. In terms of stats, she has same amount of health as Kang the Conqueror. The HP is a lot, the damage is a lot lower. The armor is decent, the focus is great, the resistance is also decent, and the speed is also very good. So this is a character that you should not sleep on. Now, in terms of tags, she's villain, she's global, she's bio, and she's a controller. So make sure you farm that controller ISO 8 because you really need it. Okay, something very important that we need to mention right now is that on the striker ISO 8 attack, if the enemies have vulnerable, she's going to get ability energy, and the enemies only need to have one vulnerable. So that's amazing. That means if you have her as a striker, she can get energy all the time, and she's going to be able to use her abilities multiple times, and that's great because her abilities are quite good. On basic attack, we are going to increase the damage, and the damage is just normal damage. We don't have any additional effect. So this is a T4 you can skip, and even as a striker you can skip this T4 because once again we are just dealing with normal damage and the multipliers are not that high. Let's move on to the special, and the special when you do the T4, you increase the damage on the primary target, and in Cosmic Crucible, offense and defense, you are going to also apply Disrupt and Trauma to the primary target on top of defense down and stun. So you are getting additional functionality in Cosmic Crucible. Disrupt and Trauma, those are game-changing buffs, so this is going to be a must-have T4. This is one of those T4s that you cannot skip if you are using this team on Cosmic Crucible, which you should, of course. Then we have the ultimate. When you do the ultimate T4, you are going to increase the damage on primary target and adjacent target, but once again the multiplier is very low. It's only primary target and adjacent target, and it's a minimal amount of increase in damage, so that part is not important. What is important is the second half. In Cosmic Crucible, apply stun to the primary target. So we have a character with 2 stuns and both turn 1 stuns. This is very, very important. This is very, very strong ability. And this makes Moonstone a super valuable character on the Masters of Evil or on any other team in Cosmic Crucible. So this is definitely a must-have T4 together with a special, because we are getting additional functionalities to the kit of this character, Moonstone. Then we have the passive, and when you do the T4 on Cosmic Crucible offense only, gain additional 100% focus for self and Masters of Evil allies. This is on top of the 50% that they already get. Now keep in mind that these characters, they are going to get additional 50% focus because of Ultron and because of Kang the Conqueror. I think that gives offense up to the entire team. So do you really need more focus? Maybe. It really depends on which match you are facing, but honestly probably not. And once again, because this is a offense only T4, this is another one that you can probably skip. This is a T4 that maybe is recommended if your team is like very, very small, maybe 3 yellow, 4 yellow. If your team is so small, maybe it's a T4 that you should consider, otherwise not really. Okay, so that was Moonstone. Let's take a look now at Titania. And Titania, she's super, super beefy. She has very good stats. You can see right here with her health. Unbuffed, she has 852,000, so she's one of the toughest characters in her team. And she's going to buff herself and buff her allies by 50% extra health, which is massive. Then she has very high base damage, great armor, great focus, and the resistance is not the best, but that's okay. Now the speed is quite low, but this is misleading because she's going to get 10% turn meter on every turn of the allies Masters of Evil, because every time the allies have a turn, they give counters to Titania, and that is going to give her 10% additional turn meter. So her speed is going to be more around 130, 140 speed, because every other character is giving her turn meter. So that means 4 characters, 40% additional turn meter, and that will increase her speed by 40%, and that will make almost 150 speed, so that's quite impressive. But this is only in Cosmic Crucible, of course. Okay, so Titania, she's going to be a villain, global, bio, brawler, and Masters of Evil character. So another global character, yikes, big yikes. Can we get more global characters? We don't have enough. Give us more global characters, we don't have enough. Okay, so on Titania Basic, when you do the T4, she's going to increase the damage on primary target, and in Cosmic Crucible, on crit, we are going to clear 2 additional negative effects from herself. This T4 is not very important. I would do this T4 just to increase her base damage, because she's going to be doing counters all the time. But beyond that, it's not like a very important T4. Clearing the negative effects, I mean, that's okay, that's nice. But at the same time, is this like super important when you have absorbing man, absorbing all the negative effects? Is this going to be something that is going to hurt you, or is this something good? So this is why we have the first impressions infographic, because we need heavy testing in Cosmic Crucible to find out if this is going to be important T4 or not, and if it depends on the match or not. So I would only recommend this T4 right now based on increased damage and based on the fact that she's going to do counters all the time. Okay, let's move on. Let's take a look at the special, and the special, you increase the damage on the primary target by 120%, which is a big chunk of single target damage. In Cosmic Crucible, apply safeguard if the primary target has safeguard. I'm not sure how important this is. Maybe it's going to be important against like Darkhold or against Unlimited, but against any other kind of teams that we have available right now in the game is not that important. So this is one of those T4s that we have to wait and see to see how good it's going to be. It's definitely good against Infinity Watch, also is also going to be useful against Apocalypse. So maybe, yeah, at some point in time we'll have to do this, but we need to let the meta to consolidate a little bit more to see what's going to be used on defense, what's going to be used on offense, and to see if this is going to be a valuable T4 or not. Okay, so let's move on. Let's take a look at the ultimate. And the ultimate, when you do the T4, you are going to increase the base damage by 100%. And this is single target. None of these abilities are piercing damage, so the damage is going to be reduced by the armor of the enemies. So it's okay T4. It's mostly damage. So this is one I would skip by 100%. Unless you really want her to finish off characters, we'll have to wait and see. Once again, it might be a good T4 when you have the entire team, because I think together with the energy generation that she has on her basic, you might be able to use the ultimate and the special like all the time, and that's going to be convenient for you, and that will justify investing on both of these T4s, on the ultimate and on the special. But face value right now, you cannot justify this, so you can skip the ultimate. Now we have the passive, and you can see how amazing this passive is. On Crucible, on spawn, gain 10% speed bar, so that is going to make her already a lot faster. And in Crucible, on Masters of Evil turn, gain 1 counter to a maximum of 5, and gain 1 deflect to a maximum of 5. So this is why she's going to get 10% turn meter on every ally character turn, and this is why you need to do this T4. Like, this one is a must-have Cosmic Crucible defense and offense T4, because she's gonna be super fast, and she's gonna be super annoying. Okay, so that was Titania for you. So in terms of T4s, I would just do the special maybe, and definitely the passive. I would just do the passive and then skip and wait to see if the other ones are going to be important or not. So the final character that we have for the Masters of Evil is Ultron. This is a old character, like Ultron has been around for like 4 years, so it's not a big deal. Now in terms of the basic, in terms of the stats, let's see the stats first. He doesn't have the best stats. The HP is a lot lower, but he revives, so based on that, okay, he revives. The base damage, it's not the best. Kang the Conqueror had 60,000, he has 50,000, so as you can see, not the best. The armor is very good. And the focus and the resistance is quite low, especially the focus, and this is going to be important for the ISO 8 suggestion. The speed is also not great, and it takes a long time usually for Ultron to get going, so this is something that we have to have in mind when you are setting the position of the characters. Okay, so Ultron is a villain, global tech, blaster, and Ultron, so he has his own tag, I guess. This is weird. Okay, so in terms of the basic attack, when you do the T4, you are going to increase the base damage by 70%. And like we mentioned, the isolate suggestion is going to be Raider, in my opinion. And that's why we are not going to do this T4 on the basic, because you are not going to use him as a striker. In the past you were using him as a striker, but right now it makes more sense to use him as a raider. So the basic T4 is going to be something that you can skip if you are a new player. Then we have the special, and this special has so many functionalities now in Cosmic Crucible. So not only you are going to guarantee that you summon 3 minions, your minions are also going to have more damage. Your minions will spawn with death proof and 10% speed bar. This speed bar is going to be extremely important to make Ultron very viable. You are going to also attack the enemy by 20% damage. You are also going to get assist from the minions, and those minions, one of them is going to turn rewind the enemies, the other one is going to give you energy. So this is going to be just amazing. This attack will be unavoidable, not only the Ultron but also from the minions, and it can also not be blocked. So this is a must have T4 for Cosmic Crucible. Very important T4 for Cosmic Crucible for Ultron. Then we have the ultimate. And the ultimate does a big single target nuke with piercing damage, so it's going to be important to do this T4 because you are going to increase the multiplier by a big chunk, 80% piercing damage. And in Cosmic Crucible, if this character has 3 or more Masters of Evils, you are going to clear that proof on the primary target before dealing the damage. And this means that you can one-shot the character and they will be gone, because after enemies killed by this ability cannot be revived, the attack will be unavoidable and cannot be blocked. So you are going to do full piercing damage in the face of the enemies, and you are going to remove the death proof. So this is going to be a very good finishing move for Ultron, and that's why this is important T4. Okay, so in terms of the passive, when you do the passive, Ultron is going to get 50% more armor, and Master of Evil allies are also going to get 50% more armor, and in Cosmic Crucible is also going to get 15% more speed bar on spawn, and that's extremely important because of the trash speed that we just saw that Ultron has. And this means that his overall speed is going to be around 130, making him quite fast. This team is going to be brutal. Now, one of the reasons why I recommend him as a raider is because of the new passive. If this character has 4 or more Masters of Evil allies, he gains 30% crit damage. So that means on crit is going to do 30% more damage, and based on the kit of the characters, we already know that this team in Cosmic Crucible is going to get easily 100% crit chance. So all this piercing damage, all this crit damage, you want to increase it as much as possible, and this is why we are going to use this character as a raider. So let's talk about their ISO weights and my suggestions in terms of ISO weight. So the main character that we need to talk about first is Titania. And Titania, because she's getting counters and deflects all the time, is going to be nice for her to be skirmisher. So she's going to be applying vulnerabilities to the enemies all the time. She also applies ability block, she also applies disrupt and other negative effects to the enemies. So having additional focus for her is going to be great. In the future, those vulnerabilities, they are also going to be applying bleeds to the enemy, so this is more damage output that we'll have. But right now, this is going to be extremely important in my opinion. So she's going to be the main character of the team because she's always going to apply these vulnerabilities, and then you can use the other characters to take advantage of those. Okay, so that's going to be the main focus, that's going to be the centerpiece of the team, Titania, with the skirmisher isolate. After that, we need to take a look at Absorbing Man, because he's going to be a tank, because he benefits out of gaining deflects, and because with his striker isolate is going to get more deflects. I think striker is going to be a good option because you go from 0 deflects to 4 deflects. That's huge. And once again, on his passive it says that whenever he blocks and that means whenever he removes one deflect, he's going to heal by 5%. So that means you can get 4 deflects up to 5, and that means you are also going to get additional healing, and he needs this healing. He needs the extra survivability out of this healing. That's why the striker is so important. We'll talk about the secondary isolate in a second. Then we have Kang the Conqueror. Now, the Kang the Conqueror, in my opinion, he should be a raider, because with his ultimate and with his special, he's going to do massive damage. But especially talking about his special, the more crits you do, the more evades he's going to get. And you need those evades to keep Kang the Conqueror alive. And that's going to be nice. So more crit chance, more evades. So not only are you going to do more damage, but you're also going to increase the survivability of the character. Something that we can consider in the future is Striker, but give me a second, we're going to talk about that. Now, Moonstone, Striker. We need her as a striker because we need her to get that energy all the time. She has good focus, so we are going to mostly focus on her. Using the negative effects to apply more traumas, apply more stuns, mind controls the enemies. So the striker is going to keep her getting energy, use her ultimate energy, use the special energy, use the basic double energy. So this is why I think she has to be a striker. It's because of all that energy flowing to her, and then you have all those stuns and all those traumas being applied to the enemies. Finally, we have Ultron, as I just mentioned, because of the additional crit damage that he has on his passive. I think he's going to be great as a raider, because that damage from the ultimate, that piercing damage, that big nuke that he does with the ultimate, plus all the crit damage he's going to get from Kang the Conqueror, plus all the crit damage he's going to get from his passive. I think he has to be a raider. He's just going to be a destructive machine with that ultimate, and I think it's very important. Bypassing the death proofs, bypassing the block chance, the unavoidable, and so on. We just need this guy to nuke as strong as possible. Let's talk about the secondary isolate changes, and this is going to be for very specific situations, or if you are using these characters on Cosmic Crucible defense. So if you are using these characters on Cosmic Crucible defense, and I recommend Room 3. Room 3 is very important for this team. So instead of Skirmisher, you are actually going to use Fortifier on Titania, and that means that whichever buff Titania has, whenever she uses her ultimate, she's going to spread to her adjacent allies. And as we just saw, because she gets energy whenever she does the basic assist or counter, that means she's going to be using her ultimate quite often. That's why she's going to have the Fortifier to spread those positive effects to her adjacent allies. So if Titania is a Fortifier on Room 3, that means you can use this guy, Absorbing Man, as a skirmisher, because he's going to be applying the vulnerabilities to the enemies instead of Titania. Makes sense, right? If she's the one not applying vulnerabilities, the guys getting the counters are going to be the ones applying the vulnerabilities. Okay, so with this in mind, if you have Moonstone next to Titania as well, she's also going to get the counters, so she no longer needs the striker because she's going to have the counters to get energy back. So you have Absorbing Man, you have Titania, then you have Moonstone, and all of them are going to be attacking the enemies. They are going to do the counters, they are all going to get energy and so on. The flex in the case of Absorbing Man, and I think that's going to be a great combination. After that, we could use Kang the Conqueror as a striker, because whenever he's a striker, the isolate attack is going to give him more turn meter. I'm not exactly sure if that's going to be relevant enough, but that means you are also going to change the position of Kang the Conqueror. He's going to be more on the sides, and therefore he doesn't need as many evades as he would require otherwise. And that's why he's going to be in the corner instead, rather than be in the middle. And then we have Ultron. Ultron, we can use him as a striker. I don't really recommend it. I just think he's better as a raider. Doesn't make a huge difference, but it's a suggestion that we had in the past, Ultron striker. In my opinion, it's not going to be that relevant. The raider is just the best option in this team. Okay, so in terms of team position, If we are using this team on offense, we are going to have Absorbing Man, Titania, Kang the Conqueror, Moonstone, and Ultron. If you are using this team on defense in room 3, then you want to have Absorbing Man, Titania, Moonstone, Ultron, and Kang the Conqueror. This is going to be the best team position in case you are using them on defense. Now, in terms of the best game modes for these characters, right now we can confirm that this team is amazing in Cosmic Crucible, we all know that. And in Blitz, they are good, but Kang the Conqueror, you want to use him with X Factor, and the other guys, you want to use them with Nobu. In terms of arena raids, in terms of Dark Dimension and Alliance Wars, and also for Avengers Tower, we don't know yet. We have to wait and see to see if these guys are going to be any good or not. Okay, guys, so that's it. That's the Masters of Evil. Everything that you need to know in order to gear them up. And I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure you smash that like button. And if you found the video helpful, make sure you share it with your friends on Facebook and Discord. If you're new to my channel, make sure to subscribe for more Marvel Strike Force content. And I'll catch you guys later.